Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel and the All Star Wrestling Review Series for June the 3rd, 1978. Wish there were more of these, obviously. Gaps in between frustrate me, but we can only do what we can do with what's available, and more is available in the old school uh, area than ever before, so that's a good thing. June 3rd, 1978 is an interesting time. Hosted by Vince McMahon, including conducting a ringside interview with Bob Backlund as is we're here, and ultimately Luke Graham with the Grand Wizard with defeating Jim Ray. Thumb to the throat. Obviously, Luke Graham, of course, the Eddie Graham and Billy Graham are the Grahams that most people remember. Unfortunately, Dr. Jerry Graham also has been a little forgotten. Luke, Jerry are the, I guess you'd say, lesser known Grahams to modern fans anyway. But Luke Graham, certainly a guy who, doing a lot of brawling in that. For the most part, associated with Captain Lou Albano and the Grand Wizard throughout. I think there's a couple of spots where the Grahams were involved with Albano, maybe in the early 70s. But, punch, kick, clotheslines, and thumb to the throat by Graham. Graham, of course, wearing very colorful tights. This is kind of a plaidish sort of situation, and leading in there. Not exactly the best of things. Then again, the Grand Wizard returns with another match. This time, Stan the Man Stasiak, former world champion for about a week and a half, maybe a little less, returns here, and he is squaring off against, in fact, let's see, Stan Stasiak defeating Jim Oliver 255 with a heart punch. Heart punch, of course, a lethal maneuver. Ox Baker used it in other territories. Actually accused of stopping some hearts with it legitimately. I don't know what is wives' tale and what's true in that nature, but you see Stasiak going after the punches and showing some degree of aggression and assertion with that. The enhancement talent does tie him up in the ropes a little bit. Ropes are obviously a little bit wonky, so a head scissors by Stasiak, who looks a little bit, I guess you'd say, leaner, maybe a little less intimidating than he had even in previous weeks, so maybe he's leaning down or whatever the case may be, but he eventually gets the victory in just under 3 minutes with the heart punch, and the heart punch still, here in that era, a lethal hold. Bob Backlund comes out for what amounts to a first interview, not exactly anything to write home about. Talks about all the challengers that are here. Talks about being a collegiate-style wrestler and wanting to be one of the best in the world. Also talks about wanting to potentially hold tag team champions with a guy like Peter Maivia at some point in the future, being a double champion, and kind of moving towards the idea of eventually being managed by Arnold Skaaland, although that has not fully panned out for him at this particular juncture. We move to another match in the foray of things. This is the Haystacks, Calhoun, and Larry Zbyszko defeating Silvano Souza and Moose Monroe, 439. Zbyszko pinning Souza with a crucifix. Crucifix popular for Zbyszko at the time, not exactly understanding that particular move because it's kind of taking a little more coordination than most people would associate with Larry. Moose, a bigger guy, kind of almost looking like a Vishon, go behind by Larry in the very early stages. From the outside, we obviously see Haystacks Calhoun getting involved, holding his man so that Larry can hit a couple of offensive maneuvers. Silvano Souza comes in around and gets tossed down a couple arm drags by Zbyszko. Souza manages to come up. Souza is a enhancement talent over the late 70s, early 80s, and a good bit there. Zbyszko gets the crucifix and gets a win. Zbyszko, of course, getting a pass for his matches, not always having a lot of sense made to them in the sense of running around with that nature. We continue to go into more matches. Strong Kobayashi is out here, and he is going to face a Um, Kind of a rare off world champion Bob Backlund. 1256 atomic knee drop is the focus of this particular run here. Obviously, Backlund on TV, trying to build up champions, trying to get things going. And this might even be sweeps week. I'm just looking at May, maybe April and May are sweeps. Still back in the 70s. I'm not really sure. But to have Arnold Skolin and Bob Backlund on the show with Strong Kobayashi in a 13-minute match, pretty big deal. Kobayashi, of course, becoming a major force in Japan, as well as here stateside for a little while. Blassie being his interpreter slash lover of all foreign heels, makes a lot of sense at the time period, but still, Backlund giving him this much time on a television program is just kind of interesting at the time. Backlund with a bunch of go-behinds. Backlund matches, I know a lot of people aren't a fan of his. I actually like them because they're more wrestling-based, they're more counter-hold-based, and eventually he, although is a boring promo, and I don't really understand the Skolin thing with him at the time. Maybe it's because Skolin been around since the 50s and might have some credibility with Northeast fans, but I don't necessarily know that translates well. A lot of jockeying for position, takeovers into wrist locks, hammer locks. Backlund comes up and tries to come up from underneath, puts his man in a hammer lock and other wrist lock like maneuvers, manages to wrestle around with him. Kobayashi goes to the outside, just kind of leading through the ropes. Listening to Fred Blassie a couple of times, Backlund still made to look strong, goes back to the arm. Again, this is a time when baby faces actually meant something, and so, doing basic things are here. Several takedowns, hip tosses, and the like. Backlund still in control. Massive atomic drop a couple of times. Not fully getting the victory, but Backlund comes back around with a second atomic drop and finally gets a victory off of that. Just interesting that an atomic drop is a finish here in 19 and 78. We go to the main event, which is the tag team champions, Dominic DeNucci and Dino Bravo. Interesting team. Again, Bravo new to the area and trying to get him over, so they put him with DeNucci, who is a respected babyface at the time around the territory. And so you can kind of, pair him up. But he's tag team champion, which many people would not know if they weren't studying the history. Bravo and DeNucci defeat Tank Patton and Butcher Vachon 358 when Bravo pins Patton with a drop kick. The idea of Dino Bravo, who much later becomes a bunch less mobile into the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, pulling off a drop kick might be foreign to some, but here in 78, coming off of a extended Canadian series of tours, he drop kicked, not exactly a horrible thing for Dino Bravo. And again, DeNucci, not retired at this point, but certainly slowing down, although still able to be a second from the top, third from the top drawer, and especially in your smaller clubs for independents or outlaws, kind of like a Jack Ritchie's and all of that. Pretty big thing. Tank Patton has been an enhancement talent, gets a little bit of a rub out of this. Dino Bravo manages to use majority power, headlocks, hammerlocks, and the like, and eventually Bravo takes the majority of the match because they're trying to get him over as a young babyface, again winning with the dropkick and getting the victory for his team. We'll be back with more right after this.